So during the semester, I have a schedule where, so basically in grad school, you can kind of set your own schedule. And so what I've come up with that works for me is that between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., I'm either attending lectures for my classes or I'm in my office space at the lab working on research stuff. Then between like 5 and 8, I take a break, work out, have dinner, and then for a few hours after that, I work on my classwork, so homework, projects, studying for tests. So typical work day, kind of, but then with more work on the end of like doing the extra classwork. Um, I typically don't work on like Friday nights or Saturdays. During the semester, I usually am doing coursework on Sundays. That's kind of unavoidable with like the volume of coursework that comes, but I definitely try to maintain a balance between like getting stuff done for school, getting stuff done for research, and getting my own personal relaxation, unwinding time in. And it's sometimes hard to manage that balance, but I definitely maintain it for the most part. Um, During the summer, it's no classes, so I pretty much just do research 9 to 5. If I have a deadline coming up, I do more work outside of those hours, but I try to keep like a normal 40-hour work week and not do too much on the weekends or outside of those hours.
There were probably semesters where I was just doing all research, like the summer, and then there's semesters where I was taking maybe 2 and a half classes, kind of, and it typically ends up being like um, I would try to stack like classes on the same days, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That would be like my mornings, maybe my afternoons. And then any residual time I had left would kind of just, I'd go into the lab, sit down. It's a lot of kind of, uh, I think that there's like usually a meeting or two every week with, I think for MEng, it's a lot with like a more senior graduate student kind of directs you through most of the process. And then also like I'd meet with my advisor, Professor Howe, for every 1 week or every 2 weeks. And my project was with IBM, so we also had IBM colleagues that we would meet with. But I think for the most part, like the majority of the day is like, you have a goal that you've set up via these meetings, and you're just, uh, working your way towards that goal, like writing code, like, drawing diagrams or trying to like write up PowerPoints that allow you to convince others of, the findings you've had, and allows them to understand what changes need to be made. So it's a lot of like self work, but I think you get to collaborate with others quite a bit too.
So I think it's very, I think different depending on the grad student you ask, obviously, and also like the phase in your kind of grad student career and the project you're on. So when I was early on, I was part of this DARPA program, and we had these pretty regular milestones and a lot of testing we had to do with hardware experiments. And so I was sometimes working in a warehouse in Charleston, sometimes spending time in our lab, sometimes going to a different lab, sometimes working at Draper. And so I was moving around all the time to different buildings, different meetings, sometimes working in coffee shops. And then later on, as that program ended and I became more of an independent researcher doing more kind of abstract and theoretical stuff on my own, now I guess before the pandemic, I was basically working between lab and just random coffee shops and at home, just wherever I could get some kind of space and some time. And for me, the process of moving and working for one place in 2 hours and then moving somewhere else and working some more was more sustainable than trying to sit in one place for the full 8-hour day and work straight through it. But I do enjoy the flexibility you get, and like it's really kind of you're kind of like an artist on the scale of employed people, in the sense that you're kind of just, your responsibility is to getting your own stuff done in whatever way is most effective for you, which can be challenging, but I think it's a useful exercise. It was useful for me to learn how I work best, and continuing to find new ways to work.